had an opportunity to learn from a group called Island Doctors, and we've got the real doctor here. Dr. Roy Hinman is going to speak for us now, tell a little bit about his career and how he got into this business and what his take is on what's happening in healthcare in America right now. But I met a woman, I actually met the president of the Home Builders in Orlando about 35 years ago, and he had a heart issue. And the doctors, he went to two different doctors, said, well, there's nothing we can do for you. There was no kinds of surgery at that time that they felt that was going to help save his life, but they thought he'd be dead in 6 months. Instead, he ended up meeting this lady from Europe, and she introduced him to vitamins and nutrients that helped change his life. And within just about 4 or 5 months, he was a different person. And he's whipping down these vitamins at the table, and I'm saying, what are you doing? You know, what is this all about? While we're eating dinner. And he told me the story. And so I introduced myself to that lady as well. She was from Austria, and I've used her for many, many years. But that's the kind of thing that can happen in America. We, as our RFK has talked about it, you know, the average European lives 6 years longer than the average American does. Okay, why is that? Well, they keep all the garbage stuff out of your food, you know, and they regulate it from a point of view what's best for you, what's natural and not artificial and not filled with dyes and colors and oil. You know, that's where, you know, there's 2 countries in the world that allow drugs to be advertised on television, the United States and New Zealand. Okay, can you figure that out? What causes that? Well, it's a little organization called the FDA that gets bribed by Big Pharma and other groups like that that'll persuade you to be able to eat, you know, their foods and their drugs, you know, which most of the time don't help you. They may temporarily help, but they don't help you in the long term. We're not made to take oil from the bottom where Exxon mine oil and for us to drink it. That's not it. And that's what chemicals are made. You can't, there's no chemical combination that can be patented like for orange juice and apple juice together because they're natural things. But you can take an artificial product like a chemical and you can develop a patent for that. All right. So anyway, we're in a kind of a manipulated society. That's my opinion. So we're going to get Dr. Roy Hinman here to talk about it. He's the founder of Island Doctors. How many have ever heard of Island Doctors? Okay, well, that's good, more than I expect. But I have been going to them for the last year and a half, and it's a good experience, and one that's practical, and one that I'm very excited to have him talk about his career and how he got started on this and give his opinion about what's happening in the medical field. So let's give a big round of applause. Dr. Roy Hinman.
Thank you very much. So if I start talking a little bit quiet back there, somebody please raise your hand, make me talk up a little louder, all right? So 72 years old. I'm the owner of Island Doctors. We've been in business since 1991. We're what's called a global risk providers. I am the insurance company. So most physicians, it's a terrible thing. It's called a perverse incentive. The sicker you get, the more your physician makes. I mean, and well, that shouldn't have anything to do with anything. It's a perverse incentive, but it's the way the system's built. We actually get Medicare Advantage programs. I'm a global risk. That's the maximum risk you take. So I pay for all the hospitals, the insurance, all the. You go into the ER, you go to the ambulance ride, you go to SNF, skilled nursing home. You come out sometime, you're so debilitated, they got to work on you for a couple of weeks before you go home. Your pharmacy, everything, we pay for all that. All right, so I actually do better when people get healthier. Imagine that. What a wonderful thing. So we go out of our way. We've come up with some very inventive strategies that make that happen. So I'll just go back, and once again, I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel. And where do I get started? Born in Tulsa, outside in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Grew up in a little community way outside Tulsa. I went to a 2-room schoolhouse, 2 rooms, 8 grades, back when there was. At one time, I was the only student in the 4th grade until a little redheaded girl came in and ruined it for me. But now, and I hold most of my success now to good work. Thanks the Lord for this and my mother. When I was probably 4 years old, had a sister too. My mother would always read us, we would say our prayers at night, and she would read us from the Bible. And she started at the start of the Old Testament, King James Bible, and would work. And so she would read us a little bit. And as we got a little older, hey, I know that letter. That's the letter A. Okay, what is it? Well, I know those letters. I know that word. And so every night she would have a set of prayers. And, brothers and sisters, you talk about competitive. Starting early. So is when I got to learn sentences, my sister would know the letters. Well, this went on. So every night we'd read so many, say a prayers, we'd say so many passages, she'd read so many pages, flip the page over. And we actually started at the start, and we, of course, went through all the Old Testament, went through the New Testament. And by that time, we could read I could read sentences, then I read paragraphs, except when you run the Kings and Numbers and things like that. You got some of those names now. But my little sister was competitive. She'd read behind me. All right, so we went through the Old Testament, the New Testament, went back through the Old Testament a second time. Now, let me tell you what, guys, when you can read the King James Bible, when you're in the third grade, let me tell you guys, you are at the head of the class. I remember being in the fourth grade teacher would come over to us, Mrs. Hines. We didn't have ADD and these attention deficit disorders back there because we had Miss Hines. Now, Miss Hines was a rather portly woman. And in Oklahoma, we would say she had reactions quicker than chain lightning. All right, because we had a big classroom. There's only two of them now in the school. And there's the windows where you can look outside. Well, she'd walk around with a ruler. Now, if you weren't studying or reading your thing and you were gazing out through that, it was bam. And everybody could pay attention. We had no attention deficits at that time. All right, so I'm just the way it is. Now we go everywhere now. They can't pay attention. We had no problem with that, anybody. But I remember she would say, hey, Roy, I need you to come over. You're going to work with the first and the second graders while I work with the third graders. You work with them with the reading. Now, when you're using a fourth grader to help with, but look, when you're only one teacher for fourth grade, use what you got to use, right? So I was blessed by my mother and God's work in the King James Bible to get where I am today. My gosh, I'm a voracious reader. I can read anything. I've always read that. Why? Well, my God, it's King James Bible. God, how can you go wrong with that? So I've been blessed by my mother, and other women have always inspired me in one way or another to get to achieve great things, or not say great things, but better things in my life than I would have achieved otherwise. So first of all, I want to thank the Lord for for being here, but I want to give credit, definitely where the credit's due. So I graduated from, I went to military school for 2 years of ROTC, graduated from University of Tulsa, bachelor's degree in psychology, commissioned in the Army out of Oklahoma State, went to serve with the Army for 5 years as a cavalry officer, spent a year in Korea, and then went off and did things like worked as a roughneck offshore oil and onshore. A lot of oil in Oklahoma now. It's not just Texas, guys. I don't care what they tell you up there. We refer to that place as Baja, Oklahoma, in fact. Right? So after that, I couldn't get back in the Army. They said, well, you get out, no problem, you get back in. So I got a job for 2 years working as a military advisor in Saudi Arabia, teaching Bedouins how to blow up tanks. And so actually set up their anti-tank school. Made enough money to come from a family that's not no wealthy. Nobody in my family had ever graduated with a 4-year degree, had been to college. So I made enough money recycling petrodollars to actually put my way through medical school. And the Army actually paid my way. The Army does God's gift to the Boy Scouts, the Army. God bless the Army, all right? So they gave me the skills to make money to go through medical school as a tank officer, cavalry officer, if you will. And then on top of that, well, my gosh, look at all I got a master's degree from human resource management at Pepperdine University, one of the top 10 business schools in the United States. They brought instructors out to where I was at, Fort Bliss, White Sands Missile Range. So what a great thing for young people to be in the military. A lot of adult supervision, which is important at that age, all right, including for myself, all right, needed it, got it. So then went to medical school in the Dominican Republic. Couldn't have got one in the United States. My grades weren't that good. And I spoke a little Spanish and went down there and learned some more. And that's good to speak Spanish here now, right? When I came here in the state of Florida, and I also speak Arabic. In 1991, I couldn't find anybody to speak Spanish to in St. Augustine. It's got a Spanish name to it, St. Augustine, but there was nobody there. Now everybody speaks Spanish. I spoke more Arabic when I got to St. Augustine than I did to people that would come through as tourists than I did Spanish. So, but I got through that. And then went to residency, University of Florida, Jacksonville, University Hospital. Now becomes University of Florida. and started my practice in 1991. So just kind of tell you where I'm at there. And being from a very poor country in Dominican Republic where I went to school, they can't afford to send you to see, we in the United States, we diagnose you by, we're going to get labs and we're going to x-ray you about 15 different ways, and radiation is not a good, it's not our friend all the time. American Medical Association, just in April, that's the second most closely read medical journal. If you say this is the kind of book you go to find out the true facts, they reported that very shortly, 5% of all cancers, that's 1 out of 20, is going to be caused by CAT scans. Right? April this year, or 2025, 5%, 1 in 20, all cancer is going to be caused by CAT scans. All right, so these are not. But in the Dominican Republic, hell, they're poor. They had 2 CAT scanners for the whole island. Before you've ordered something, you better, first of all, you did an excellent physical exam and you got a great focused history. Not like the United States. We'll just let them free as social, let them ramble. No. Find exactly what the problem is, how long they've had it, what causes, what makes it better, what makes it worse. And those are the kind of facts they focused on. So when I started practicing medicine, when I went to residency, I didn't know about all the labs I could order and all these different radiology. We had that stuff in the Dominican Republic, but you use that sparingly. You use that what they refer to as judiciously, instead of just that's the way you diagnose people. So when I had the opportunity to work with a group called Hinman, pretty large, to be involved in their managed care, I thought, wow, suddenly you could get people healthy and focus on the things that actually caused you to die early and debilitate you. And really, we're not really about worrying about making you live longer. So, I made it to 93, I'm going to collect another paycheck. Hell, we don't want that. What we're trying to do is increase the wellness span, So everybody in here, people will say, hey, I don't want to take these damn pills. I don't want to take another pill. Look, you want to be the guy that one day you say, I have to get up in the morning, take a handful of pills here. And then in the evening, I take another half a handful of pills. And then when I run out, I have to walk 2 miles to the pharmacy to get more. A guy 105 years old shouldn't have to put up with this kind of nonsense. That's what you want to step. Now, I won't go as far as Dow Chemical. I remember them. They're the guys that made napalm in Vietnam. They said their motto was better living through chemicals. But there are a way to judiciously use medications that are to our benefit. So don't everybody get to this idea how everything is, oh, I don't want this pill, or I don't want that. Forget that stuff. Let's judiciously look, how do we get healthy? Now, the thing we have to remember as far as health goes, so I know a lot of guys in here talk about asset management, wealth, real estate, brokerage, pension funds, all these things, especially, I'm 72, we're all kind of, people ask me why I retired. I said, why am I retired? The Army kicked me out 12 years ago because they said I got too old. I got plenty of time on my hands. They're not deploying me anymore, right? Now, they didn't tell me till a year after I'd reached retirement that they'd retired me. And they called me up and they said, I called up and said, hey, I'm looking for duty. And they said, well, we retired you a year and a half ago. I said, wait a minute, I mean, I could have been drawing a paycheck all this time? And they go, well, yeah. I said, it's amazing. You could deploy me to Iraq 3 times and find me, but you can't find me when it's time to draw a paycheck. That's the way the government works. But for all of us here, our most important wealth asset management is our health. All right, that's number one, above everything else. With our health, we can go back and do anything. We can recover from bad business decisions, bad business deals, the fate of life. But without our health, we can't. So that's the asset that needs to be guarded the most. In fact, you'll watch this. Now, a guy will sit there and look over all his stocks, pension funds, property he owns, management, whatever he's got, his bank accounts. And you know what the little woman's doing? She's watching him. Now, why is that? Because this is a guy that's going to take care of her. And without us being around, for us to take care of other people and for those around us, we have to take care of our own health first. Does anybody disagree with that? So it's not because we're greedy or we're looking after ourselves first. It's because we have to do that. All right. So now part of the topic here today is what's going on new in medicine. There's an old expression, the more things change, the more they remain the same. I think everybody's probably heard that. If you haven't, you should have 50 times over. Now, we don't have to, when we're talking about your health, there's 1,000 things you can do. All right. But let me tell you, there's about 4 things you need to focus on. You focus on these 4 things and you will do well. All right. Now, we could all sit here and talk about people that we knew personally or somebody close to us that died from different things. Hey, motor vehicle accidents, gunshot wounds, drownings, stabbings, pneumonias. You could just root falls. We just go on and on and on. But there are 2 things that make up about 40% of everybody dies from in the United States. 2, and that's heart attack and stroke. All right, 2 out of stroke. And 90% of that's just cholesterol. All right. Now, if you when you hear about somebody that has an open heart surgery where they pull the valves, they do surgery on the legs. They can do what's called internal mammary, but they put we can rearrange the vessels in there, or they put in a stent, or they do a carotid endarterectomy, or they put a stent up here, or they do vascular surgery here. 100% of that's cholesterol. All right. When that thing clogs up, the only thing that causes that is what's called LDL cholesterol. That's why they call it the bad cholesterol. So when you see pictures of plaques building up in the arteries, or on the inside or on the outside of the arteries in between, that's LDL cholesterol. All right. So every bit of that. So when your numbers are low, guess what? That stuff doesn't happen. You say, well, that's rare stuff. I never hear about that. Why would I want to pay? Yeah, oh no, you hear about that. People tell you about that all the time. Now, that's not even talking about all the heart attacks and strokes, because a huge portion of that is due to that. So everybody here, take these key points back. I don't care if your physician tells you, oh, or worse, the cardiologist says, oh, don't worry about it. It's not that bad. Now, patients tell me that all the time. And I say, wait a minute. Do you understand what he just told you? He said, yeah, doc. He said, I don't need to worry about that. You want me to get my numbers lower. He said it wasn't that bad. I said, how bad's it got to be? Did he just tell you it was good? Well, no, it's not that bad, which means it's bad, but it's not bad enough. Well, I get paid when you get healthy and you're not in the hospital, man. I want you to get struck by a bolt of lightning and get run over by a car. Look, you're in church, you're outside a liquor store, you're playing golf, but you're doing something that you would rather do than be in the hospital or be in the nursing home. So here's a little point they don't tell you because they make it so complicated. There's a general agreement if your LDL, the bad cholesterol, is greater than 100, you're in what's called deposition mode, okay? That's when it deposits. That is 100% of the time. I always ask endocrinologists, cardiologists, anybody tell me when that's a good thing? Nothing. Never a good thing. Always bad. Well, it's not real bad. Not real bad. It's just, man, it's bad. And then remember, that's 40% of what basically puts us in the ground, all right, or debilitates us. So you want an LDL below 100. That hasn't changed. Well, they used to say the numbers were 190 or 135. Well, they didn't have cholesterol medicine to do anything about it. But where it deposits has always been there for the last thousands and thousands of years. Okay, now, if it's above 100, it's always bad. So whatever you are, get that number down, all right? If your physician doesn't participate with you and believe that's important, just get somebody else, all right? So when you go between 100 and the number 70, as a general statement, there's no magic number. Don't we say 90, 95, 100, 105? But when you drop in that 100 to 70 range, 75, 70, 65, somewhere in there's no magic number. Then some comes in, some goes out. When you go below 70, you can reverse this stuff and actually clean it out of your system. Absolutely seen it. I got patients. I have got all the charts, reviews. I know for a fact. So when you get bad numbers, you can reverse this stuff. All right. So you don't need the cabbage, the open heart surgery, the stents, and all these things if you will address it. Now, you can't wait till you got all that stuff and say, well, it's just going to go away immediately. No. It'll start getting a little bit better overnight, but it takes a while to fix this stuff. So just key take-home message, everybody here. Protect your biggest asset is your health. Keep that LDL cholesterol below 100. Everybody, there is no exception to that. If you've got any kind of cardiac disease, you ever had a stent, open heart surgery, had a stroke, TIA, that's where it lasts for less than a day. You have any of these things, any of these cardiovascular things that have happened, get that well under. Now they say get it under 50, right? So you want it well under 70, all right? So you can get in what's called, just like you have progression, you want it to be in regression. Oh my God, well, that's bad for you. You got to have so much cholesterol. Oh, it's terrible. Show me a study that shows that. Well, we all think, you think it, show me the study. Well, I've had patients that reported back some number less than 0, told me to recheck the labs. Those guys alive and well and doing well, all right? So I'm just telling you, get your numbers below 50, now for sure below 70 if you've had any kind of cardiovascular issue. Protect the things that kill you the most and debilitate you, all right? So now that's the old stuff, all right? That hasn't changed. What else do? You keep your blood pressure down, all right? Simple thing, uncomplicated. What else you do? If your blood sugar's high for one reason or another, keep that diabetes numbers down, get it under control, all right? Because if you don't control your blood sugar, you lose your eyes, you lose your kidneys, you lose You lose a peripheral neuropathy, you get the stuff burning and tingling in your feet. And that's the guys that get off their toes, their feet amputated. Those are diabetics almost always, that they've lost the vascular supply in the feet. He said, well, you're not giving me a lot to do. Yeah, keep your blood pressure down, keep your cholesterol down, and keep your blood sugar down. Now, besides that, on the medical side, keep your weight down, right? Bigger we are. Well, everybody says it's just your body shaming. You're telling everybody they got to be skinny. Well, no, not really. Now, look, let's forget about me talking. Let's forget about all the physicians and all the books and everything. Let's all of us here just use some common sense, and let's use our own eyes. Now, newspapers and television love to show us pictures of people that are 100 years old. Usually a bunch of kids playing around, and there's grandma in there, and she's pouring some Kool-Aid and making stuff for the kids. They're gathered around, and the old guy's out there with a lawnmower. Maybe he pushed a lawnmower, but he's pushing that thing around. He's 100 years old, and it's like, have you ever seen a picture of one where they weren't thin? Anybody seen a big one? I'm waiting. I always ask people. I've never had anybody stick a hand up. And people say, I've had people say, well, that's not fair. That's got nothing to do with fairness, guy. That's life. Well, or they'll say, where are the big ones? You say, that's just the way it is. So keep the weight. Do you have to get skinny as a rail? No. But if we want to protect ourselves and keep ourselves from using a whole bunch of medicines and not improving our health span, not how long we live. It's more important, do we stay healthy as long as we can? So keep the weight down, and we exercise, all right? We exercise. Now, as we get older, that means you got to be in the gym 8 times a day or 3 or 4 times a week. Well, that's always a good thing, but you don't have to. It's the activities of daily living, all right? Stay up, do more things. Walk up the darn stairs. When you're on your cell phone, what do? You walk, always make a habit. So you want to tie things in. We want to chain events where we start to become more efficient, whatever we do. We know that when our work, our employees want our employees to be efficient. We have to work at everything to be successful in life, including staying healthy as we get older, all right? You get on the phone, what you should do? You should walk back and forth. What are you going to do anyway? You're just standing there. If you're in the petroleum business, or you hope people in your petroleum business, they're filling up at a gas station. What do you want to do? Stand on one leg when you fill your gas up, and then move to the other leg and do that. Why? You're just standing there anyway. All right. So try to find things that you can chain in with daily reaction in daily life. You do repetitively to get a little bit of exercise in it. And activity of daily livings are so important as we get older. So I'm just trying to, first of all, I'm saying there's all kinds of new stuff going on that I'm going to talk to you about some things, but there are some basic things that are unchanging that if you do, put you way ahead of the power curve, cost you about that much or zero, but you will be healthier, you'll live better, and we'll look better, feel better, and we're healthier. All right. So that's important. And remember, you don't lose weight going to the gym. Almost nobody. So don't. I have patients say, Doc, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to the gym. And so I'm just trying to. There's certain things that people get this mental block, and they'll come back and they'll be about maybe 6 weeks later, and they go, look at this, Doc. And they'll pull up 2 notches on their belt. They say, yeah, everybody says I'm looking better. I feel. I'll see them about 3 months later. Say, hey, and they'll say they've gained a pound or 2, and I say, hey, I thought you were going to the gym and exercise. He said, well, Doc, it just wasn't working. I quit. I said, why? He said, well, I worked out for like 10 weeks and I only lost 3 pounds. 10 weeks. I just said, I ain't doing that no more. I said, well, look, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. We go to the gym or we work out, if you get an exercise program of any kind, to look better, feel better, and be healthier. Does anybody want to argue with any one of those 3 things? No. Do not go there to lose weight, because unless I run 10 miles a day. Yeah. I ride a stationary bike 20 miles. Yeah. I get on a treadmill and you can do those things, but you have to do a lot of it. All right. But this guy, and I learned from not only from medical school and people that teach me things, but I learned from listening to patients and watching them. And you can learn all kinds of things when you see the same thing happen over and over and over again. So I remember I told this patient, but didn't you? He said, yeah, I just gave it up, Doc. Well, I said, look, here's what happened. You probably lost. You only lost 3 pounds. You put on 10 pounds of muscle, lost 13 pounds of fat. So, and muscle takes up less space than fat. So you pulled up your belt, you said, look at that, Doc. You're bragging, showing off, and that's good. I'm glad he's being motivated in a positive way. And you told me people were telling you to look better, right? Yeah. And You told me that you felt better. I hear the story over and over again. I can tell you this stuff because I'm always amazed. And he said, yeah, I did. I said, so look, you went to the gym and you looked better, you felt better, and you're healthier. That's why you're going there. Losing weight, you diet, or you can diet, and I'll show you how to do that. And we have weight loss plan. We put you on a pound. We can show you how to lose a pound a day by showing you what to eat. And so you can do it, but you have to diet. But you go to the gym to look better, to feel better, and be healthy. And these are wonderful things. I mean, this is quality of life. That's what we all, that's the one thing you can't buy is quality of life. So there are different things we want to focus on above and beyond our working with the guys in the medical offices, but keep the weight down, do our own exercise. Doesn't cost us anything to do those things, all right? So that's for your general health. Now let's talk about things that are coming up new. I'm just going to run through my companies real quick. I basically have 4 companies and you all participate in one of them. I'll get this out of the way right now. And I thank you for your participation. Everybody here has had some kind of, I hate to say input, but actually is input. For the Jacksonville area, for Northeast Florida, and all the way down to Orlando, what we have I have some property outside of St. Augustine, and we take yard debris, the stuff you put out on the side. Everybody brings it in, and pretty much we take most of it to St. Johns County. And they bring it in, we grind it up. Now they used to open air burn that stuff, or sometimes put it in landfills. So they frown on that because of all the pollution and everything else. So we grind it up, and then they have wastewater sludge. Y'all ever heard of that? That's a very polite way of saying sewage sludge. Because they treat that stuff. Now, they used to put that on the fields. But what happens is because of the red tide and that other stuff, the governor said, we can't do that anymore because it's so nitrogen rich and it feeds that red tide. So they were putting that in the landfills. Right now, in fact, Jacksonville, if they don't have any room here, they have to haul that stuff up into Georgia, way up into Georgia, not 20 miles, but somewhere 75 miles north of Georgia line to get rid of it. But we take that and mix it with the wood. They grind the wood up. And they pour this stuff in like toothpaste, and then they cover it up. It's kind of like a Twinkie, hard on the outside, soft on the inside, with yard debris it's ground up. Big, heavy machine stuff that comes out of Germany, grinds the stuff up. And then they let it cook for 60 days, and it cooks between 125 and 165 degrees. And then we shake it out, and we turn it into fertilizer. And we're FDA approved for putting corn and potatoes and all that stuff, and they use it on the roadsides. And so y'all participate in that. We thank you for you're flushing for my success, right? So that's we've been doing that for quite a while, but we take care of this here. That's a separate issue that we do. And then I have a company. I'm a part owner and second largest owner out of Texas, and we found a way to prevent people going on dialysis. Now, that's pretty powerful medicine. That's a new thing. For the last 5.5 years, none of my patients that are what we call stage 4 and 5, that's when you're getting close to dialysis. We put them in this program. Nobody's going on to dialysis. It's amazing. This is a major, we're working with the FDA right now. It also improves their blood sugar numbers. I'm not trying to sell anybody on this or get you on, just letting you know these are things that are going on. And it is truly amazing because people on dialysis, they're hating life. They're miserable. Yeah. When they're doing this treatment, we do it once a week instead of doing dialysis 3 times a week for 4 hours a week. They do this for about 3 hours once a week. And they feel much better while they're doing this too. So that's another corporation, strictly improvement in medical quality of care. Things are coming down the road that are saving people from a lifetime of misery with this dialysis. Because once you're on dialysis, people don't live long because they just kind of lose the will. They don't take care of themselves, and just because they're miserable so much. I have another company that is, we've been doing I'm probably the only guy in the United States been doing stem cell work for a major insurance company, Humana. We're in our 15th year now. So for knees, hips, and shoulders, we've probably done 3,800 cases. So instead of about a 75% chance for patients, don't quote me that, because I get in trouble with the Board of Medicine, but I'm just telling you what my results are. They don't have to go on to have knee, hip, or shoulder replacement. So patients are happy, and about 10% will say, I'm not really happy, but it's a little better, but I'm not doing surgery, and about 15% go on to surgery. Now, I bring up stem cell because Florida right now is leading the United States in stem cell work. There is something very powerful that happens. So this is orthopedic use, okay? Now, as of July the 1st this year, I think Representative Dean Black had something to help and was involved in this. They announced that from now on we can do not only, he said, well, you can go ahead and do, in fact, they said, ignore the FDA. If you find yourself in violation or in contravention to FDA regulations, ignore it. The state supersedes the FDA. You say, wow, state super, and they've got that in the law. So So we can now do stem cell work and do not only for the orthopedics that I just described, which we know works very well, but also for people that have rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, Crohn's disease, diseases like what they call inflammatory diseases. That's what most of these things are. You see all these biologics. And biologics, they cost, a cheap biologic is like $5,000 a month, but usually it's like $7,000 to up to $25,000 a month for these biologics. And all of them say, and be aware you can get cancer. Well, there's a reason they put that in there, because they all, remember, inflammatory, all these diseases are caused by inflammation. And these biologic drugs that are extremely expensive and have these side effects, they suppress your immune system, all right? You say, well, look, if you got these terrible conditions, you'll take anything. I mean, you'll take any kind of bad side effect just so you don't have to live with this. But when you do stem cell therapy, actually you treat it, and it actually improves your overall immune system, and people feel better, and they're off these biologics. It's a huge saving. So we just provide that for our patients at no cost, because the cost savings to the system and to the patients just monstrous, and they feel better too. So but right now in Florida, that's just started July the 1st. Not only, so that means we can give, that means throughout the state. People don't know this. We're the only state. So they give IV therapy for stem cell in the state of Florida, started July the 1st, and they can also, they can take your cells that they collect when they do this. There are different ways to do it. They do bone marrow with fat-derived stem cells, which there's plenty of that in the United States. And they can take that, now they send it off as cultured. And so they draw it and they send it off as cultured in state-approved laboratories in the law, and then they can give it back to you as needed for different conditions, all right? So, and a stem cell works on, I'm not here to spend all your time burning that up, but on an amazing number of conditions, all right? So huge advance in medicine. Rick Perry used to be the governor of Texas. I actually met him it happened to be a Republican meeting, and he got trapped alone with me. We're both sitting in a food line, and everybody walked off, and he told me, this was like 8 years ago, and I knew he'd had stem cell work, and he'd been to Switzerland. I asked him, I said, yeah, I went to Switzerland. How'd it work? Worked great. He said, let me tell you, it worked so good. He said, Texas, we're going to be #1 in the United States. We're going to do stem cell for everything. I'm going to make sure of that. That was while he was governor. Now, he never pulled that off, but our governor and our legislatures, his team effort, they just pulled that off July the 1st. So we're the only state in the United States that allows stem cell treatment, IV. So that's available. Different people are starting to do this. It's available throughout the state now. So powerful stuff that fix all kinds of treatments, not only orthopedics that you can avoid a lot of times, joint replacements, which are significant in themselves, but all these other diseases, and they're working on eyes and senile dementia, some other things that are very powerful with that. So now I have a group called Island Doctors. We have about 450 employees, and we have 48 offices scattered throughout the state. And we primarily, and 46 of those offices are primary care, and we do managed care. So, what we do is we focus in on exactly things, Medicare Advantage, we focus in on exactly the things that I'm talking about. And so really, those are the things that we have coming up for it. And thank God for our RFK, and our president has seen fit to put the impetus behind this, because, they're looking at all this autism. Man, I never saw autism when I was in school. I mean, that's going back a ways now, I have to admit. But we didn't see that, just like we didn't have ADHD and all this other nonsense, all right? But back then, we only got like 6 or 7 immunizations. I think they're up to like 86 or 96 or some huge number. Now, and you say, well, they've got this huge number of autistic kids, and that's terrible to what it does to the system and what it does to these children. Burden on society, everybody, the parents, is terrible. But if you go among the Amish, they have like 0 autism. 0. Well, that's a different group of people. Well, what's different about them? Well, they have no immunizations. 0. But they have, there must be some, but they have either 0 or so close to 0, they can't even count the number of autistic cases they got. And our number, we've kept increasing. It's funny, we increased the number of immunizations, and we've increased the number of autistic cases. So the number is just staggering right now. RFK has said, look, aluminum is extremely toxic. So every shot has aluminum in it. I think he's trying to get the aluminum. There's something called thimerosal in there also. And we know these things are not good for you. Well, they probably didn't have much of effect when you're only getting 5 or 6 or 7 immunizations. But now when you're getting this huge number in the 90s, it's become we're seeing the results, and we're seeing that now we've got some consensus uh, amongst the leaders in our country now that maybe we can change that, and we're not letting and this, unfortunately, this is the big pharma issue. They make all this money. Pediatricians, God bless them. I'm glad I'm a family practice guy and I had to do this. I'm glad I don't have to do that. But they're responsible for keeping track of all these schedules. But you get paid more when you give immunizations, and this money's coming out of the big pharma for doing this stuff. So there's some terrible things happening, but we're getting some great results. I think they're going to see great results now that we've got RFK stopping and saying, look, we're going to have to, first of all, pull some of these things that we know are poisonous out. And they're poisonous when you give them in huge doses, all right? So these are kind of things that we're seeing. Now, on the managed care side, when I first started, I think it was like 36% of patients were in managed care back in 96. And now we're up to, it's like 53% of the population. So more and more Medicare Advantage programs extending, because that's a partnership between private enterprise, private physicians, and the government-run agents. Now, the left in the country hates that because they want one thing: we want everybody to be like in the VA. God bless the VA. Now, God bless the VA. I could be in the VA. Now, they always said a soldier's got 2 chances to give his life for his country. One's on the field of battle, the other in the VA hospital. Now, I don't believe that. I think the VA does a good job, all right? But we sure don't want everybody relying solely on the United States government to provide their medical care. So I'm just trying to give you some idea of some of the things that we do that I've been involved in. I'm surely appreciative of how I got here. Well, the King James Bible, my mother teaching me to become such a voracious reader from that I was able from a young feller just to sit there and read stuff that nobody else knew. I used to read encyclopedias because I got so used to it. And so it's stood me in good stead, or I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And I sure appreciate the armed services of the United States that taught me skills to defend our country with, and at the same time allowed me to pay my way through medical school, teaching soldier fighting skills to other people. Hopefully they continue to use them in a good way. And, and then all the people that brought me along and helped me reach that point. So, and staying in church and knowing I need to be there, get church more than other people that are around me, I've been appreciative. So if anybody got any questions, no. So the key thing to remember, there are some basic things that you want to do. Get your cholesterol down, keep your blood pressure down. Don't worry about the number of pills as long as it's effective. But there's 50 things they can treat, but those are the 4 things you want to treat. I mean, you really want to look at, all right? If you do those things, you're going to do better. And we have great things on the horizon. Things are happening right now that are available to us, and it's going to expand as more people suddenly know how to do this, all right? So what's that?
Can you give us examples of those?
So things that are on the horizon. I'm working with, we're going to be doing what's called an IRB. IRB is an Investigational Research Board for Dr. Yamanaka, who is a stem cells. He's a Nobel Prize winning stem cell scientist. He's found a way to take the holy grail for stem cells. Let me just explain to you that's a big thing right now. So stem cells, back 16 years ago when I was first learning about this. Now, I ran a stem cell clinic, and we did all kinds of work down in Honduras, legally, on above board, still running down there, where we went with the local doctors, and we treated all the stuff they're talking about doing now, all right? After a while, it became not profitable for me to do it. I left it with my partners. It's still running down there. But I learned a lot there. But stem cells, they used to say, well, a stem cell goes over and replaces another cell. And while it's possible it can do that, essentially a stem cell is like a repair ship pulls into a Navy harbor. It pulls in there, and look, there's a destroyer, there's an aircraft carrier, there's a submarine, there's a tug, and there's a merchant ship over there. But it'll send repair parties over there, and it'll get the guys, say, okay, guys, we're here to help you. Well, you're going to do the work. We're going to show you. And they go through and repair things. Stem cells actually release something called, the key word you're going to hear over and over again are exosomes. And they're little very small particles, and they invaginate out of the cell wall, and they get into circulation, and they can go into whatever cells that are damaged nearby. How do they know where to go? It's called signaling. Now, the exact mechanism of that, how a damaged cell tells them, I'm not equipped to explain that to you in detail right now. So, but they invaginate into that cell and they actually do like a repair party does. They start telling the cell how to repair itself and provides that any information it needs to do that. Those are exosomes, all right? So exosomes, a beauty of exosomes, they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Stem cells don't. That actually becomes, it's not a little bit of, no, that's minutia. No, that becomes an important point. So Dr. Yamanaka has developed a way we can take stem cells, and stem cells, when we do orthopedic work, we give you your own, it's AASC, adult autologous. Autologous means it comes from you and it goes back to you. Autologous, comes from you and goes back to you. Allogenic, and I could get his stem cells, he could get mine, he could get my daughter's, I could have somebody from China. I've had like 45 stem cells treatments and exosomes. I've had from India, I've had my own cultured, I've had my own, so what we call IVF treatments, SVF, stromal vascular fractions, where they take the fat and we do it right there in the office, and I get some of that and we send it off and we get it cultured. So I've had all these treatments, but I've never noticed anything until I had some recently from Dr. Yamanaka, and my mental clarity went through the roof. Now, my other friends used to tell me, oh, what do you notice when you take this? I didn't notice anything. I always stay healthy. I'm in good shape. I'm up and running. I don't really have any pain. I'm blessed by God. But last two of these, it went through the roof, my response. I was suddenly talking about things. I thought, who is talking? That can't be me. It's like I'm 24 years old, but I got a knowledge base of what I got now. So Dr. Yamanaka, we'll be running this. He's found a way to take cells from the skin, and he can make these cells. And the problem is that now when they do that, they've had tumors, they quit growing, they have all kinds of problems with these cells. But he's found a way to grow them. They continue to grow, they stay alive, and he can reverse age them down to their extremely young age. Now they're not taking something from an ovum, but they're getting these cells to that youthful age, and he can actually break them down into three types of cells: exoderm, mesoderm, and neoderm. That we differentiating these things. So if you want brain stuff, you want the neuroderm. He can actually get them that young. He cultures them and then he grows them, and they spit out all these exosomes. He collects them, and then he can give. That's a huge movement forward. Basically, this is a Nobel Prize winner in this field. So we're getting ready to do that, and they've got stuff that now affects. We're going to be working specifically on Alzheimer's / senile dementia and kidney function. See if we can reverse kidney function. I'll be doing that little study down in St. Augustine. So he's listing us as a collaborator for it. So we have things like that are coming up that are going to be available shortly. I mean, I'm not talking about for me. I'm just talking about they're available because of the research that's going on. This guy, he's just looking for he's got a big footprint in Japan, but he needs some data from here in the United States. That's what they're actually provided me no cost. I can't believe he's doing that. So got anybody here, any information? I'm glad to talk to you about it. And it's an honor to be here. Thanks for being here. Yes, sir. And I hope I didn't bore y'all.